Go
There's a
ahead.
great question from Dwayne. He says, a couple years ago, I found out about vitamin D. I had a blood test at a number of 27. I wanted to be at 80. I started taking 15,000 IU, and after 2 years, I am now at 53. I just started on Cardio Miracle. I noticed that it has 2,000 IU per serving. Since I take 2 to 3 servings a day, I am under what I was taking. Any advice?
Well, here I'm going to give everybody a little bit of a sneak peek into what's happening with our clinical study. We're just finishing that up. It's taking it's in the hands of the statisticians right now, where they take everything about everybody that all the details about the study about each individual, and they're going to crank that out in the next 2 weeks. But what was exciting is in the initial blood work that we looked at, almost every single person that was taking Cardio Miracle on the study, their vitamin D went up. So some of them had been on 50,000 IUs per week. Some of them had been, really taking a lot of vitamin D. But there's something magical that John discovered through his team that he did this research on, that nitric oxide combined with vitamin D unlocks the stored vitamin D that's often stored in our fat, and that our body's able to utilize it. So this is a very, very exciting and very essential finding, because vitamin D is essential to ultimate health. It's actually a hormone. You'll hear Dr. Northrup talk about it all the time. All the doctors are talking about vitamin D. But before Cardio Miracle, it has been very difficult without even a prescription or something of that nature for you to be able to get it up to the levels that you want it to. And sometimes it gets locked in your fat cells. So then your body can't access it. So I
Love
think
it.
to answer the question though, to answer that question though, it's absolutely. I think when you take a whole food vitamin D, your body can utilize it. So I would expect that your vitamin D level is going to continue to go up.
Mhm.
Any
Yeah,
thoughts?
and yeah, I wondered. I probably Google this, like how many people in America alone are deficient in vitamin D, and I think it's got to be a high percentage. I would think, and so it's really fascinating that what Cardio Miracle does with utilizing all the vitamin D available in the system. That's why when it was called the great regulator and also the spark of life in the cell, I believe that's because it utilizes the vitamin D so efficiently.
Amen. And this is kind of fun. When I was working as a nurse in the emergency room, we had a doctor that was very curious, because in parts of the Midwest, the sun doesn't shine very much in the winter. And we were finding a great deal, a number of people that were ending up with MS. And the doctor was very curious about it. He said, I think it might be that there's a great group of Scandinavian people. It might run in families that might end up with MS. And so he did his own little study on it. What he discovered was that the average person that we were studying at the time that were exhibiting symptoms of MS, they had such a low vitamin D level that it was almost dangerous. And at that time, this is, 25 years ago, at that time, people they were not thinking that vitamin D was that important. So they weren't testing for it. So again, going back to how critically important that vitamin D is, and that's why people, we call it sunshine in a bottle for a reason, because the vitamin D is so essential to our ultimate health, particularly in our brain health.